Welcome back for another real world mile per gallon test. This week we have the 2025 Lexus UX 300H, and we are supposed to average about 42 miles per gallon, 44 in the city, 40 on the highway. So we're going to test that out today, see how close we get to the EPA rated average. But before that, we're going to take a little look at this because this has an all new powertrain. So this is Lexus's most affordable offering that they have, and it is a smaller crossover, as you can see. But for this year, the body styling and everything hasn't changed, but they did give it a new powertrain, which it now has the same powertrain system as the Toyota Prius. Yes, this is the hybrid, and it also has 17 more horsepower over what it had last year. They changed the nameplate on this, and it's now a 300H instead of a 250H because of the increase in horsepower. So let's take a look at the cargo space we've got back here. You get a power lift gate. This is the premium model. This is not one of the F Sport models. You do have about 17 cubic feet of space back here. Not huge, but it's usable. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the back. They do have this kind of camel tan color in here. It's really not my favorite. It doesn't look too bad, but anyway, you can see how much space there is back here. It's probably not a huge amount, but if you want to see how I fit back here, then you'll have to watch the full review. It's up on the channel right now. Here is the interior. It does look really nice. Everything looks really good in here. Real premium offering here. I really do like it. It's just a little bit small for me. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to check the miles per gallon on this thing. Okay, so that's a little bit about the UX 300H. So now I think it's time for us to head to the gas station, get filled up, and then I'll give you a little bit of information about the testing and more information about this car as we drive. All right, we're here at the gas station, and we're going to check to see if there are any requirements for this. We don't have any recommendations or requirements for any special gas, so we can just use 87 octane. And anybody's wondering, right now, Illinois, we are at 474 for 91, 384 for 89, and 299 for 87. We're under $3 here. That's awesome. All right, let's get this started up. Okay, here we go. At 87. Shouldn't take much. We've only been driving this for about a day or so. All right, that's it. 2.5 gallons. So we're all filled up. The funny thing is, this car also only has a 10.5 gallon tank, similar to the Toyota Prius. So you want something a little better than a Prius? Here you go. All right, let's get in. Let's get things reset and get the test started. Okay, we are all started up here. We're going to be looking over here on the left. This is where we're going to be watching here. So trip information, current, and history. Okay, so we're going to clear this history. Let's just hit update. All right, that cleared our history here that we're going to be watching. And then down here, we're going to go to, there's trip A. We're going to go to trip B and reset trip B. So we're going to hold that down. There we go. 0 miles, 0 mile per gallon. We are ready to go. All right, we're ready to start this test. So we're going to be heading to our first town, and on the way, I'm going to give you some parameters of our test, kind of how we do this, and then I'll update you as we enter town. All right, first thing we do is we set up the car, how we're going to drive. There's only 3 things that we're going to do with this car during this test. So the first thing we're going to do is we drive it in normal mode. Everything we do is in normal mode because we want it to be just how you would get in it and drive. Plus, we're not trying to maximize or minimize the mile per gallon. We're trying to give you a real world number of what it would be like just getting in and going. So that's why we run it in normal mode. The second setting is we keep the cabin temperature between 68 and 72. And right now it is about 57 degrees outside with overcast, so it's a little on the cooler side. A little bit of wind, about an 8-mile-an-hour wind, will give us a little bit of push to start and a little bit of a headwind towards the end. But that's why we do a loop. The last thing that we do is we drive 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. So 60 on the highway, 35 to 50 in town, and 75 on the interstate. And the reason we do that is because that is the average of what most people drive over the speed limit. Okay, now for the test itself, we drive 100 miles, 50 miles in one direction, we turn around and drive 50 miles in the exact opposite direction. That way we negate any terrain and climate conditions. The next thing that we do is we're going to drive through 2 towns on the first part, 2 towns on the second part. Those 2 towns, we do loops through those towns. So we will hit stop signs, stop lights, a little bit of traffic. That way you get some more real world driving in there. And then we'll get up onto the interstate. We'll drive about 10 to 12 miles on the interstate. That should get us to about our 50-mile marker where we're going to turn around, and then we'll go head back and we'll drive about another 10 or 12 miles on the interstate on the way back, and then we'll drive back through those same 2 towns, make those loops all the way back to the gas station where we started, and we'll test what our real world mile per gallon is. And that's pretty much it. So we are going to be coming into our first town pretty soon here, so I'm going to give you an update on that. We'll make a loop through that town, and then I'll update you again after the loop when we head back out onto the highway and on to our next town. We have entered our first town, and so far we are at 37.6 miles per gallon and 4.5 miles driven. Right now we're considerably under where we should be, but we're only 4.5 miles in, so it's probably not a big deal. But we're going to make a loop through this town, and then I will update you again as we head back out onto the highway. We've made the loop through town, and I'm just going to look at this one here. You guys see that better. It's 41.3 miles per gallon, and we can look over here at the miles. So you got 41.3 miles per gallon and 8.2 miles driven. So now we're getting into the numbers what we are more expecting. So it's getting pretty close to the 42 average, 44 in the city, 40 on the highway. Okay, so now we are headed to our next town, and I'm going to give you a little bit more information about this UX 300H on the way. So in case I didn't mention it earlier, the color of this is copper crest. It just depends on the sun and the way that it's showing on it. It does look copper sometimes, but then a lot of times it looks kind of like a rose gold. So my wife really likes it. I don't know if it's really a color for me. The last time I had this color was on the LC 500 convertible, which I didn't really care that it looked kind of like a rose gold on the outside. That thing had a V8 and it sounded like a beast. It was awesome. But this one, if I was going to drive one of these every day, this copper crest is not the color that I would probably get. But it is a very nice color for those who like it. So this, for 2025, did not change except for the powertrain. And I mentioned this earlier, it now has the same powertrain as the Toyota Prius. And it's the 2.0 liter 4-cylinder Atkinson cycle hybrid engine. And it gives you 196 horsepower and 139 pound-feet of torque, but that is not a combined number, so we really don't know exactly what the torque is. That is basically just what the engine is producing, I believe. So it's maybe a little bit higher than that. Might be closer to that 200 pound-feet of torque, but we don't know for sure. Now that is 17, I believe they said 17 horsepower more than what the previous UX was, which was a 250 hybrid, is now a 300H hybrid. So it's put down a little bit more horsepower, so they bumped up that number there to 300 instead of 250. Very nice car. CVT transmission. So I don't know how you feel about CVTs. Some CVTs that I've been in have been really good. Others have been really noisy. And the 0 to 60 on this is about 7.9 seconds. So it's under 8 seconds. So that's a plus, but it's not going to win any races. And it's not going to help you beat people off the line at the stoplight very much. But this car gets awesome MPGs, and that's why we're testing this today. This is right along with the Toyota Prius. So basically, the way that I look at this is, if you want a fancier Toyota Prius and you want a nicer interior, you want it to be a little quieter, you want to be a little more upscale Prius, this is what you want, the 300H, the UX 300H. Fuel economy, which is why we're here, 44 in the city, 40 on the highway, and 42 average, which we talked about earlier. So far, it's doing a great job. We're kind of right on par where we should be. We might see that increase throughout this drive. It could even decrease throughout this drive, depending on the situation. Now, if you're thinking, well, I can just get a Prius for even cheaper, if you're saying that this is basically a more luxurious Prius, yes, you can. But I want you to remember that it is a more luxurious Prius. The Prius is going to be louder. It's not going to have as good a quality materials in it. And it is a great car. Don't get me wrong. It is a great car. But this is just going to give you more comfort and sound protection and everything. So, like I said, you can go either way, but my choice would be this Lexus. All right, we are heading into our next town, so it's time for me to update you on how things are going. We've entered our next town, and so far, we are looking at, sorry you have a glare there, we are looking at 44.8 miles per gallon and 29.5 miles driven. So this thing is doing great. We are at the high end of our mile per gallon right now. And we'll see if it'll climb some more during this loop through town, and then I will give you another update before we head up onto the interstate. We've made the loop through town, and we're coming up on our entry to the interstate. And so far, we are at 44.9 miles per gallon and 36.2 miles driven. All right, we're going to head up here onto the interstate right here. Now, of course, we've got a CVT, and I'm going to let you guys kind of hear all of this when we get to the top of the ramp here, just like I always do. So, I don't know how it's going to sound. Is it going to sound like it's struggling? Is it going to be just a loud, constant noise? Or will this Lexus have enough sound dampening to actually make it sound pretty decent? So here we go. 1, 2, 3, we're going. Well, there we are. We are up to speed. And yeah, pretty good. Yeah, it's a lot of sound dampening in here. Really made it sound good and smooth. So, it's a plus. Way to go, Lexus. All right. So now we are going to be on here until we hit our 50-mile turnaround point. So as soon as we get to that spot, I will update you guys on where we're at. Okay, we're coming up on our turnaround point here on the interstate. And so far we are at 42.5 miles per gallon and 49.6 miles. So yeah, we're going to be right at 50 miles once we get up here, get off the interstate, and we get turned around. So doing really well. It's supposed to average 42. We're at 42.5. So doing excellent. I am really impressed with this. Okay, here is our exit. Should be able to just go up here, quick little pause, and go across, and then right back down and make our return trip through the towns and back to the gas station. But we should come out right close to 100 miles, maybe just a little over, but we'll have to see when we get to that end. So yeah, no traffic here, usually isn't any, and we can just go right on out, across, and back down. Yeah, my gimbal always gets a little screwed up when the car leans going on the off ramps. It takes a little while for it to kind of straighten itself back out. It's kind of entertaining, but all right, here we go. We're going to get right back down here, and once we get to the bottom here, I will accelerate again for you guys so you can hear the engine and the CVT transmission. But it is pretty quiet in here, and probably is pretty hard to hear it. But, okay, we're coming around. We're going to go 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Yeah, it has plenty of power to get you up to speed. So you don't have to worry about that at all. The 196 horsepower for this thing really does its job. It does a really good job of getting you where you need to be. All right, quick look, and we are at 42 miles per gallon right now and 51.8 miles. So yep, we are going really well. We're right on pace what we're supposed to be getting. So I'm going to update you guys again when we get off of the interstate. We're coming up on our exit off of the interstate. So where we're at right now is 41.7 miles per gallon at 64 miles driven. Okay, so it's doing really well. I expected it to kind of go down on the interstate because, you know, we are going at a higher rate of speed, and the hybrid does not kick in much, if at all. So now that we're heading back into town, we should see those numbers climb back up. So we are going to make a loop through this town, and after that loop, then I will update you. We've made our loop through town, and we're back out here on the interstate and get back up to 60 miles per hour. As we're doing that, I'll update you. We are at 43.1 miles per gallon, okay, 43 now, and 72.5 miles driven. So 3/4 of the way through our drive. We're just a mile per gallon above what we're supposed to average. So, yeah, this is doing great. I think we're going to come in really close to the 42 that we're supposed to average. But we are on our way to our next town, and I will update you when we get there. We've entered the next town, and so far we are at 44.3 miles per gallon and 93.4 miles driven. So we are 2 miles per gallon above what the EPA average is right now. And I don't see it going down much here, driving around through town, making this loop. But we'll check it again after the loop and as we head back out onto the highway. Made the loop through town. We are back out on the highway, headed to the gas station to finish this up. But where we're at right now after the loop was 44.4 and 97.3 miles. So Heading back to the gas station, I'll give you the final numbers when we pull in, and then we'll get filled up and do the calculations. We are back at the gas station here, so we're going to get our final numbers. And we are at 44.7 miles per gallon and 101 total miles. All right, let's go ahead and get this filled up, and then we'll do our calculations and we'll find out how close the numbers are. All right, we made it back and everything looks really good. You see the numbers were a little higher than what we expected, but we're gonna get filled up now and see where those numbers come in at. Okay, here we go. 87. Let's get it started. There we go. All right, there's our numbers. 2.3 gallons. I drove 100 miles on 2.3 gallons. That's crazy. All right, let's get this done up. Closed up. Got our receipt. So what we've got is 101 miles divided by 2.3, and that's going to equal 43.9 miles per gallon, or 44 miles per gallon. The car is reading a little bit higher than what we came up with, but not by much. Just not even quite 1 mile per gallon, just a little less than 1 mile per gallon off. So really good numbers and better than what the EPA said. So your 2025 Lexus UX 300h all-wheel drive real world mile per gallon is 43.9. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. If you like this, hit that thumbs up button and think about subscribing so you don't miss any more of these. Then click on the videos that's up on the screen. One is the review of this Lexus UX 300h. The other is one YouTube chose for you. I think you're going to like them both. You have a blessed day, and hopefully I see you in that next video.